like a multi-generational like fan base because of the books and people who wanted it to be good and have wanted like Dune adaptations for a long time.
I was kind of blown away by this movie, to be honest with you. And I had heard like any time that I said like at work or anywhere I was that I hadn't watched Dune, people were like, "Oh my God, you haven't watched Dune? Like, what's wrong with you?" I thought when I first saw that, I was like, man, such a lame ass fucking looking ship. You know what I mean? Like, it just looks like a hollow hot dog. Like, you couldn't come up with something cooler.
All right, let's do this.
But that's what we're talking about. What are we doing? Good evening. Welcome to the Showboys podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and joining with me are also the other hosts, Mike and Chad. Hey. How are you guys doing tonight? We'll start with you, Chad. Mike can go second.
Poor Mike, man. Mike never gets to go first. Even when he's up top next to you. You roll right past him. Yep. I'm good. I'm very tired, but I'm here. It was a little jarring to hear you say just Nick. I don't know that I've ever heard. Yeah, you never introduce yourself as just. It's usually Nick. Pixel. It's just,
you're
just Nick tonight.
Nick. Yep, just Nick. Is this your day after?
This is the shift? Recovery day. Yeah, recovery day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel better on recovery day or the day before? Like, I still don't know how I would feel about that.
Yeah, it's neither really is the option. Yeah, if neither was an option, that would be my answer and it depends because sometimes the day after is fine, like you sleep and you're chill and it's just another day. But more often than not, it's not that kind of day, which it wasn't last night. It's not today. And then by the time I'm recovered tomorrow, it's like, oh, I got to go back.
Yay.
The next day and do it all over again. So
vicious cycle.
It's so psychotic the more you think about it. Like, it seems like torture.
It really is. And when you first hear about it, you're like, that sounds like an awesome schedule, dude. Like 24 on, 48 off. You get 2 days off after every shift. You're really not even you're getting 1 day off.
Yeah.
And it's not even a full day because by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, you're like, oh, I got to go back to work tomorrow. So it's not even, it's just like, yeah,
it's a trick. It's a mean trick.
Yeah.
Between you and Ugly Kid Joe Cross, like, that dude's just like rotates normal hours and midnights, and it's just like, how do you guys do that?
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah.
No thanks, bro. No thanks.
Yeah.
Michael, how are you?
Oh, good. Just on day 8 of the main thing that I use at my job to do my job being broken. So, literally I'm like a living the dog sitting inside the house that's on fire, I'm fine meme. That's been me for like the last week plus.
I don't know if I just play this out in my mind or I dreamt it. That I fixed your problem.
Well, you definitely dreamt it because it's not fixed.
It didn't happen.
But I don't know if I just sat here and thought through it in my mind how I would fix it, and or I dreamt it. But yeah, either or. I did fix your problem somewhere in my mind. Sorry, it did not actually fix it. I know it's wrong.
So here's
I know exactly what's wrong.
Here's a short story of what the nightmare that I'm living through. So I submit a help ticket to my company's IT department. He's like, yeah, I don't know much about this. Let's submit a ticket to Google because you're using a Google product. So I submit a ticket to Google, talk to them, spent 45 minutes to an hour on the phone with them, sharing my screen, showing what's going on. The person's like, yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to submit a ticket. And I'm like, you are the ticket.
You are the ticket.
How are you submitting a ticket?
You're my third tier ticket because someone already talked to me.
That's happened now 2 other times. So we're 4 tickets deep, 3 of which are tickets within Google itself. So it's been real fun.
Yeah, you got a big problem. It's going to go to all the way to the top.
Right.
And
then next year, like, I had a dream that I fixed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
I totally could, though. You guys just have to dial me in. I could fix it. I know it's wrong, too.
I'm still waiting for you to fix my PC.
You know the guys I work with. You can just give them a little text.
I actually don't know the location of it currently. It disappeared from its previous location. So.
Well, Chad, I'm gonna need some basic information to help you out, and part of it is like the location of
said computer. Yeah, I don't know. I think because I asked Kirsten about it, she was like, my dad took it back because it was her brother gave it to me, and I was like, why the fuck did he take it back? That was an expensive PC, bro. Like, kind of want it back. Like, I'll figure it out eventually.
Because you can't get to work, they just took it.
They just took it. Yeah, just straight up took it.
Just go take it back.
Yeah,
it's just
necessary.
Or I'll show up. Tell me where they live. I'll show up at their house. Hi, I'm here for the PC.
Here for the PC that you stole
on Chad's
that you gave. You gave away and then stole back.
I'm repoing Chad's PC that you gifted him and then regifted to yourself.
Yeah. This is just like a prime example. I'm not a PC gamer because it's just like there's just always a problem. There's always an issue. Something's not working. Some driver needs updated. It's like, what the fuck ever, dude. I just want to put the disc in or download the game and play it with no effort.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. Totally fair. There's a place for consoles in this world, and there always will be. Whatever the nature of that will be.
Nick, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, thanks for asking. I'm doing pretty good. I'm hosting tonight, apparently, because I am the Dune expert, which I might be, because I didn't realize that neither of you guys have seen it. And I guess, like, as a Showboys unit, we have just been very asleep on Dune.
Yeah.
I did not realize. I thought I was the only one.
It seems really odd that we've been asleep on it for so long after watching it, to be honest.
Yeah. But think more on it. I mean, I've played an RTS version of Dune, and I've watched the movie, so I think maybe I'm ahead of you guys in the Duneverse.
Can confirm.
The Dunoverse, the Duneverse, the Duneverse.
You are.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Let's move on from that.
Yeah, we'll move on out of that. Thanks to our top tier patrons. Hey, if you want to be a patron, go over the patron/Showboys. Right? Is it Patreon? What is it, Mike?
Patreon.com/Showboys Podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
You always say patron or patron.
Patreon.com. Well, isn't that what you are? You're a patron on Patreon.
We have all these freaking followers. They're like, I can't find the patron.com/Showboys. I've been looking for years.
All right, I quit. I'm out. I give up.
Oh my god.
Mike should do the intros.
Hey, you know what? Here, I'll fix this for you guys. You can head over to patreon.com/Showboys Podcast right there on the bottom of the screen. And you can sign up today for as low as $1 a month. You could help support Showboys Podcast.
And for $10 a month, we will put your name shouted out on every single episode. Tim B, right. Yusuf H, and Hall of Famer Joe C.
Yep. Get things like an exclusive Patreon episode every month that no one else gets.
That's right.
You can get early access to the episodes we record because we're usually a week ahead when we record. So you can get those like the next day right after we record them. So check it out. And if it looks cool or if you feel so kind as to just help support us every month, sign up. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, perfect. Another thing that's going on is March is approaching. So we are doing our second annual Showboys March Madness. Last year, we did a streaming service kind of war, right? Is that how that goes? Each division was a streaming service, and each of us represented a different streaming service and division. This year, we're doing console wars, and two of us are representing two divisions, and we have two guests that are representing another two. We have polls out on our YouTube page in the community section. Go check those out, fill those out. Those are the round one polls of the 8 matchups per division. So vote for your winners by any way you deem necessary. We'll use that to kind of help us move through those rounds to some degree. We always incorporate those. And another thing that we have going on is we do have a best bracket challenge.
That's right.
And drum roll, the winner of the best bracket challenge will win a Nintendo Switch OLED.
What?
Yeah.
We're actually going to give... Okay. First off, you guys have to submit brackets so we can give this away. We're literally trying to get rid of this OLED. Please fill out brackets. Somebody will win it. And Nick will no longer have it in his house.
Which sucks. It's become like a mascot, I think, at this point.
It honestly, it has. It's almost like Craigbot from the beginning of Showboys.
Yeah. Craig. Rip Craig.
The OLED will now join like Craigbot tier of like honorary Showboys members.
But we all know who the new mascot will be. The Switch has been surpassed. There's a better device out there in the world.
There is.
Another OLED.
That is true. Yeah, there is another OLED.
But so not only are the polls on our YouTube page, they're currently in our Discord too, which you can find a link in the episode description. And hopefully before this episode goes live, there will also be links on for the polls on our Twitter and maybe Instagram and Facebook. But we're really going to be trying to push those out. So go vote in each poll. And if you would be so kind, if you see posts of us on social media with the links for the polls, if you could share those, retweet them, whatever, so we can get those circulating, get the absolute most amount of votes as we can for this round. One thing we're doing differently this year, instead of each episode covering a round of the tournament, we're doing an entire division of the bracket in one episode. So Sony's episode will cover every round leading up to its final four representative and so on and so forth for the other rounds. So we'll only have one poll. We might be able to get another poll out by the semifinals round. Maybe. No, I don't think we will actually. Maybe the week of. I don't know. So this is probably your only chance to vote. So go help us decide these round one matches in each region.
And fill out a bracket and submit it to showboyspodcast@gmail.com so you can have a chance to win that OLED.
Yep.
I think that's a little bit more important, but definitely fill out the polls. Yes. But get yourself some free shit too while you're at it. With all that said, we can move on to tonight's topic, and keeping with, I guess, a mild theme here as we go through February before March Madness, we decided to review a bunch of things that we're watching somehow as a unit too.
Yeah.
This is a rare occasion where this is like 2 times in a row where the trio here has watched something, and I feel like we might go 3 for 3 before March Madness. Maybe. I'm gonna really push you to do it.
Hoping.
I'm just gonna keep talking up these fly boys to Chad, and he's gonna watch the crap out of Masters of the Air.
Yeah.
But
and funnily enough, so we had Rebel Moon, then we had Flower Moon, and this doesn't have moon in the title. It is space related, and it rhymes with moon.
So it does rhyme with moon.
We're maybe kind of keeping up with that trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my wife asked me what we're talking about tonight, and I was like, oh yeah, one of those. I was like the 2 hour and 45 minute, the real long movie I watched recently. She's like, oh,
which one?
She's like, the one you guys talked about on Monday. I'm like, oh no,
not that one.
the space, more Star Wars one. She's like, oh, did you talk about that last month? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, and that's the other theme is these are all very long epics.
They are.
So with that, we are talking about Dune, long overdue here at the Show Boys. I don't know why we're talking about Dune. It came out in 2022, something like that.
Not even 21.
21.
Holy
so
moly!
Worse. Yeah,
yep. Right off the tail end of COVID.
Man, back in the Pando days. That's crazy. I remember it coming out. I remember it winning a bunch of awards. I remember people liking it, not liking it per usual. I think just the theater thing. Obviously, I had like a 1-year-old, pandemic. Theater just wasn't in the cards. But I don't know what took me so long to watch it on like HBO, because it was on there like pretty quickly. But I do remember I did try to watch it in 2023 maybe, but it was through a different period of time where maybe I was more sleepy at night. And like the bass line, the score in
it's
this
just got a
movie.
constant hum in the background
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because that was my first takeaway. I'm like, it just put me right to sleep. Like there's just
Yeah,
this
really,
hum, this bass line, like, and it just, if you're at all sleepy and it's dark
yeah.
and you're over 30, you're taking a nap.
You're in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, with the crushers with the
I
bass turned on,
Oh,
holy
dude.
crap.
Yeah.
Like my eyes were just like vibrating. It was crazy.
But
Oh,
yeah,
man.
so I'm excited to finally get around to it. I watched it like 2 weeks ago. Mike watched it this week. Chad, when did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it like 2 days ago.
Very nice, very nice. Did you watch it in one go?
Actually, that was a lie. I watched it yesterday.
Dang, it's fresh.
I did watch it in one go. I did, however, mistakenly probably watched it on my iPad. I probably should have watched it on the TV. And we have like a really nice surround sound system. Well, I don't know if it's nice, but we have a surround sound system at the fire department. So I probably should have watched it on that, because the score in this fucking movie is so good, dude.
So good.
So good.
So much good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good note. Backup producer. Dad's not here tonight for whatever reason. Fail.
I got
Backup
you guys.
producer Michael. It was released on Max and theater simultaneously. That was during that whole trend, which now they've shifted to releasing in theaters and $25 rents or whatever.
Yeah,
the worst.
So yeah, it just wasn't in the cards. But I don't know why I slept on it for so long. I think I knew I always wanted to watch it, but it was an undertaking. So it's like 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes.
2:35.
Yeah, 2:35, solid. So yeah, I'll see based on.
Oh,
go
before
ahead.
we get into it, because this plays into the length. Last episode Nick was talking about how he likes to like find the perfect places to segment these long movies. Upon his recommendation, he put a perfect like spot to pause, because I watched this 2 parts. One, what day is today? Thursday. So I did about an hour and 45 minutes on Tuesday, and then the last 45-ish minutes last night. And your recommendation on where to stop and pick it up the next day is perfect.
Heck yeah.
Good job.
Heck yeah. Thank you. And I did that on the fly too. I was like, you know what? This feels like the right moment. I feel like it's a nice lull.
Yeah.
We'll see if Chad can guess it. If you want to take a swing at it now, Chad.
It's got to be like once all the shit goes down, they get captured, they escape, and they're like in underneath the sand. Is that the perfect cut point?
Yeah. Nailed it.
Right.
Nailed
right when I stopped right as they like open the door and they're walking down the tunnel, and the Fremen lady's like explaining what the
that's
compound
perfect
thing was. I was like,
yeah,
great.
It was when they like got into the first main chamber, and like that was when I was like, okay, nice big shot before we get back into it. Pause. Yeah, and that's a very natural break in the movie. It's like, is it the middle? Pretty close. It's
over halfway.
It might be a little. Yeah, it might be over half. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's what, 2 acts then.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a 2 act out of a 3 act trilogy, because there will be 3 of these puppies. So obviously based on a series of books. There was a movie in the 80s. Also called Dune,
on HBO too. I kind of wanted to watch it just to see where we came from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we came a long way, because I think there was a lot of people had issues, with the adaptation, and obviously this seems like a tricky one to adapt into a movie or a film. just because at least the way they did this, like it definitely did it justice to be done in the day or the year it did. You know what I mean? Like recently, because 80s, I could see it being like cool for the 80s, but would not age well at all.
Right.
And then a miniseries in 2002 that I did not know. That's cool.
Actually,
Miniseries
maybe
weird.
that's what's on. I didn't know that either. So it's either one or the other is on HBO. I'll look.
And I think the 80, I think it was 84 movie.
Right.
The movie from the 80s was David Fincher, by the way. Pretty well known.
Yeah, it's the 80s one that's on HBO.
Yeah. But this one was well received. I mean, it won a bunch of Oscars. I think 9, I believe. Obviously, the score won some stuff. Visuals won things. It is a grand, epic film, but in all those regards. So, surely deserving. Definitely not for everyone, by any means. Definitely a niche like sci-fi flick, but also I feel like Dune has a lot of like a multi-generational like fan base because of the books and people who wanted it to be good and have wanted like Dune adaptations for a long time. So there seems to be like a good amount of welcome hype just for the sake that someone is doing one modern day and it is good.
Yeah.
The other thing that's cool. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I was kind of blown away by this movie, to be honest with you. I knew that I wanted to watch it, and I had heard like any time that I said like at work or anywhere I was that I hadn't watched Dune, people were like, "Oh my god, you haven't watched Dune? Like, what's wrong with you?" And I just never got around to it. And yeah, I mean, by the end of the movie, I was like, "Holy fuck, dude, that was really fucking good!" Everything about that movie is phenomenal. Cinematography is on point. Acting is phenomenal. The story, the background, everything that's going on, the world they build is really cool. And
the wardrobe, the costumes are amazing.
And there's so much like historical parallels with all those different costumes. You know what I mean? Like some of them look like samurai, some of them look like, it's really cool, dude. Yeah.
And dude, the cast is like insane.
Yeah,
Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa, like freaking Stellan Skarsgård is the Baron.
Batista.
Dave Batista. Oscar Isaac, bro.
I will say, like literally the whole movie outside of the dream sequences, I was like, Zendaya is really not in this movie at all, and it's like all you see in the ads are Zendaya. And him, and she's like literally in like the last 15 minutes of the movie, maybe.
Yeah,
kind of, sort of, where like there's like we're dating and we're just gonna walk together through the sand. Escalate quickly. The chosen one, but it does have a kind of like a a Lord of the Rings feel, where it's just like there's a stacked cast and it's an epic, and there's like kind of a quest going on here. So, and I think that was also intimidating for me just because I was like, I'm not ready to like dive into this just because it's like too stacked to like, I knew I would have to sit down and digest it for real and not just like throw it off on a whim. So I'm kind of glad I saved it to do an episode on it.
And
I don't know
the episode comes in perfect time because Dune Part 2 is coming, in a couple weeks, months,
my
maybe?
birthday, March 1st.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks. A week after this releases.
There you go.
So let's go.
Look at that timing. It's almost like,
whoa,
maybe we planned that or something. I don't know.
Nah, not at all. But yeah, real high level. We'll start with you, Michael. Your thoughts on it.
Excuse me.
You thought it stunk, right? Sucked.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Bass was too much bass.
I just really hate sand. So, no, this actually honestly would just be Anakin's like worst nightmare. Just
Yeah, right.
Mining spice on a sand world. Yeehaw.
But no, in all seriousness, it was just very epic. I think epic's probably the most appropriate word for it. Everything from like the massive scale of like the town on Arrakis, or like the ships. I'm thinking specifically when um Paul's mother, I forget her name, but like when the oh shoot, what are
Lady
the
Jessica.
yes, when they come and like the lady tests Paul, and then
Yeah.
um that the leader and Paul's mother are walking out, and she like gets on the ship and flies away. Just like the shot of his mom like standing at the very like outside of the ship, and she's basically like getting blown away as it's taken off. It was just super grand, and the scale was really cool, and they did an amazing job with the shots and the cinematography to like really show the massive size of the world and the items in it. Like I thought the costume design was awesome. Everything in the movie just like sucked you in and immersed you into what was going on. And I also think like I said this like a million times, but like honestly, watching stuff with these headphones on just like also sucks me in even further, because I'm just like lost in the sound. And the story very very interesting. The characters very very interesting, um, and the fact that we're getting two more of these makes me even more excited, and glad that I finally watched it.
Just in time. You're probably gonna go see it in theaters.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Very nice. Very good. Chad.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just love the world, man. There are some movies that just build a really compelling world. I think John Wick, the series, does a really good job at this as well. But there's just something about this, and there's actually a lot of parallels to this in the new Armored Core game that I played over the summer. Like maybe even direct rips from it, including like spice in this movie is coral in the game. It's the same concept. It's used for weapons. It's used for in the game. It's used for drugs. Yeah, there's just a lot of good stuff here. A lot of I felt like Middle Eastern tones a lot throughout this movie, like this kind of Wild West planet where it's just mayhem over there. And yeah, the acting, dude. And I love Chalamet, so I got to get that out of the way. I've never seen a movie that he's in that I didn't love him in. But everyone else is super strong too. And then the like technology stuff is really cool, including the like. When I first saw it, I was like, God, it's such a stupid ass idea. But as the movie went on, I started to appreciate it. But like the freaking like I don't even know, like the Hornet ship or the wings are like flapping. Like it's such a cool concept.
Ornithopter. Ornithopter. Yeah.
And also on top of that, I think that it's cool because it's set in the future, right? Like some obscure year, like 10,100 and something. But there's like not really any firearms in the movie, which I thought was cool. Like mostly everybody's using swords, but they have like carpet bombs. So they have like carpet bombs, but they're still using swords. It's like I don't know what the hell's going on in this movie, but it's working. So
or like
it's working really well.
They cut into the area that building they're hiding in with like this crazy laser.
Yeah,
but then they're just like, we're just gonna do hand to hand.
Yeah, we're
combat.
just gonna, yeah. But yeah, all the technology stuff's really cool. I like how they explain how spice is like crucial to interstellar travel, all that stuff. There's a lot of good sciencey stuff in this movie too. But yeah, I mean, I was blown away, to be honest with you. I loved it.
Nick?
Yeah, I agree. I was way more impressed with how much attention to detail of the world and the technology than most things. Like obviously great acting, but like I was more impressed with like the world building, which they weaved in very organically too, right? To like the dialogue and what they talked about. Like even Brolin and Timothy like having their little sparring match. You learned a lot about
the shield,
tech and the shields, and it's like, you know, why is everyone just like rocking swords in this world? But it's like, oh, because they have this tech that prevents bullets basically from being useful. So you got to go in there and just like beat people's shields down. I was like, okay,
oh yeah, that's true.
yeah, and I thought that was cool. Man,
I like how they you're talking about the world building, but like Paul's character or Timothy's character, Paul, you get a lot of the world building through him like reading the books or like listening to like the books on tape essentially of like everything. I thought that was pretty neat too.
Yeah, he was watching the overhead projector.
Yeah.
Reels of just like, because Arrakis here is just like this very pivotal planet for basically spice. It's like one of the only sources of spice at this scale, and the way they again, a lot of callbacks to Star Wars when we're talking about spice. Literally the same word, same properties.
Yeah, right.
Where it's both a drug and also a resource for things. But then just the political stuff, like why all these things are happening and the way it's set up. Like there's this emperor who basically dictates who gets control of Arrakis, and he's kind of sending House Atreides off to die because they've become so powerful and so cool. He's kind of jealous of them, so he sends them off to basically get crushed by
the Harkonnens,
Harkins, and just the way that's all played out and set up, like a little bit of it's like inevitable because it's the obvious path they're set on. Like even the tension in the scene when the envoy comes to tell them in that very formal way, and he's just like, how much did this cost them? And it's like expensive. Dude does like eyeball math really quick. So I just really I was definitely blown away with the way they approached like all the world building and the attention to detail in that manner, without it being kind of like shoehorned in there. Because definitely Rebel Moon had like just straight up exposition for the sake of exposition. So like all this was just very carefully crafted, and even they didn't like mess up with these like these dreams and Timothy's character, the way his role is, because he's kind of like a soft prince boy, but like he kind of earns his stripes, but he's also kind of like the chosen one. So he's got that going for him. But yeah, I definitely surpassed my expectations. Definitely.
Yeah. The dreams were really interesting. And towards the end, I got a little confused because we have the dream, sorry, of him like befriending the guy that he like killed in hand-to-hand combat, where the guy's like, oh yeah, I'll teach you the ways of the desert and all this stuff, and then he just like Paul just straight up kills him in that little duel, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I guess you won't be teaching him the ways of the desert. So I wonder if like if those are like not all going to come to pass the way that we're seeing them laid out, these dream sequences laid out in front of us, or if some of them will, if none of them will, or I don't know. I'm interested to see how those continue to move forward.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool setup and a cool first entry in the movie. But a lot of the stuff that I was really enjoying was actually out in the desert, like specifically with the desert worm thing or whatever they called it. It just felt like, have you guys ever seen Tremors?
Yes.
Like there was a lot of callbacks to Tremors. Yeah, there's a lot of callbacks to Tremors, I think. And that's another thing in Armored Core 6. Like that's one of the bosses is like a giant mechanical worm like that. So I'm like thinking maybe they really stole a lot of shit from this movie, because I think the movie came out. I mean, the story's been out for a while, I'm sure, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. I just like the concept of that worm, and I like the tools that they have to distract the worm.
Thumper.
Like they stick the thumper they stick into the sand to make the rhythmic, because it's attracted to rhythmic noises. But yeah, and then just watch the whole scene where they're gathering the spice in that big ship and the worms coming in, that whole sequence was awesome, dude. I was like,
Yeah.
this is super tense. Like you can see it in the background coming. And then realizing how big this fucking worm is, like you're expecting it to be big, but not as big as it ends up actually being.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all.
And aren't there
really,
like daggers and swords like made from teeth from these worms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which is cool. Yeah. Yeah.
How are they
the
getting
whole worm thing is awesome. I
Yeah.
have no idea. And also, do they mention, is there multiple of these things or just one specific? Maybe there's more. I don't know that they ever say. But I'm like, that's the thing I'm most intrigued about. Like, I want to know more about the fucking worm. Like, how are you guys even on this planet doing this shit when this thing's hunting you down every time you're out there gathering the spice? Like, doesn't seem very viable.
Well, part 2 will explain a lot of that. But also, by the end of the movie, we do see Freeman basically riding one off in the distance. So
desert power.
Yeah.
That was kind of corny, but also it fit like Oscar Isaac's like role as like just kind of like the leader of this faction. He's like, I'm just gonna keep it real simple. We need desert power because we're gonna rock this planet. So gonna give it my best go. But even like I really like the little detail when he puts on the what are they called, the suits that they wear, the Freeman.
Yeah, but I can't remember. That's another really cool thing. The way they explain those suits is really cool.
Recycles like most of your bodily fluids and your sweat.
Yeah.
But she was like, "Where'd you learn to do that?" Because of the way he like cuffed the bottom of his pants over his boots or something like that. Like something really small, but like she instantly picked up on it. Like, where are you from? Like, only like we would know how to do that. But he's kind of a nerd, and he's been watching like all the prep material to like
be the
guy.
She says something about like a prophecy too, like he will know your ways as if he was born into them or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool. I'm just so intrigued at where the story's going to go. Obviously, I haven't seen the original one, so it might do the whole story all at once. I don't know. But the I do have to take a break and talk about this score for a little bit because for my money, man, if that score wasn't here, I would have still enjoyed the movie. But that just adds so much more to the movie. And I'm a sucker for music. I'm a sucker for scores in games. I'm a sucker for sound effects, all that stuff. The score, I don't know. Like there are points of it where it's got like a horror movie score to it, like a religious horror movie score is how I would describe it. Like the dark undertones to the score, especially when they're showing the one faction. I don't know if they're like a cult or whatever the hell is going on. Like I don't know the names.
Ladies.
Yeah, the score during that, dude. I was like, this is fucking haunting, bro. This is awesome. But yeah, there's really, I mean, you had mentioned last week that bass tone was in the movie, and it's really like almost entirely in the movie for the entirety of the runtime of it. There's very little time where it's not in there. You weren't joking at all. Yeah. And I normally hate that. But it's you normally get stuff like that in Christopher Nolan movies, and he doesn't know how to fucking mix his movies. So the score's so loud, you can't hear what's being said on screen. Here it's done properly where it's low enough that you could actually hear what the hell's going on.
You just have to rely on people's acting so you know what's going on.
And reading lips. Like, I don't know why the fuck I'm reading lips in a movie, but.
Oh, that's amazing.
The Bene Gesserit is like what that little cult of mind readers is with their little mind control stuff, which is also cool. Like the voice, like that's just bizarre, but like cool. They have to like say it in a certain tone in their brain.
Oh, dude.
What?
No wonder I love the fucking score in this movie. It's Hans Zimmer. He does the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Interstellar,
everything.
Dunkirk, everything that I love.
Christopher Nolan.
Ironically, Christopher Nolan. Yeah, just these producers know how to mix their shit right. That's interesting because I frequently listen to that Interstellar score, like just driving in the car because it's so perfect.
You pretend you're flying a spaceship.
No, I just sit there and bask in the glory of the beautiful music that Hans Zimmer puts out.
Just pull up to Chad at a red light and he's just sobbing with like Interstellar
that's close,
playing.
man. It's so good. Yeah.
It's okay,
close.
Murph.
Yeah.
Murph. I'm sorry, Murph.
Oh man. No, you're right. The score adds so much to this movie. And like if you can rewatch it with like some bass, like holy crap.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
insane.
sure.
Excuse me.
And and that's where it's just like that like undertone sets the expectation for then when it gets loud and like the real bass kicks in, like the explosions, particularly when like the Tratus like ships that are just like parked just get like nuked from the Harnican from like orbit, and they're just like running out there and it's just like pure chaos. Like that scene was awesome. And like Josh Brolin's just out there in their militia jammies, just like ready to whoop some ass.
That's another thing that was in freaking Armored Core's Jason Momoa's character, I don't remember his name, when he's running and that ship's shooting that laser at him. That's right out of the game too.
Idaho.
His name's Jason Momoa. So they're like, here's your character name, Duncan, Idaho. Like you just went from one like chatted up name to like the next.
Wow. Yeah. So there's
Duncan,
like it really was like every scene I was like, yeah, that's right out of Armored Core, man. Or I guess this was all the Armored Core stuff was right out of this. But yeah, it was cool. Yeah. And the other thing, I gotta be honest with you, I fucking hate Jason Momoa. I think he's just kind of a trash actor, to be honest. And he's just like the muscle. He's like the Rock. He's just there for the muscles and that's it. But he was really good in this movie, and I was surprised to see him have a little bit of acting chops. Now maybe I haven't seen that many Momoa movies, so maybe he's gotten better since I've seen him before. But he was kind of stand up for me. It kind of sucks the way his character ends, I guess. But we knew it going in because they kind of spoil that very early on, where he like had a dream where he saw him dead.
Yeah. That's what Timothy's sweating the whole time. Old Paul. And also, shout out for
I love their very not spacey names.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, Paul,
Duncan, Idaho.
That's the thing. Like the location and like factions are like so similar and hard to say, but then their names are like luckily super easy. But like Arrakis and like Atreides, like just reading those just confuses me. And then all that gets weird to follow, like usually the last names, but yeah, like their first names are like all pretty easy.
Right.
Atreides is such a cool name.
It is.
So
is Arrakis. Cool. Arrakis is a badass name for a planet, dude.
Yeah. Man, I was like the first time the Baron of Harkonnen shows up or is on screen and is all Vladimir. Like massive. Yeah. Dude, I'm like, bro, Stellan, is that you, dude? Is that you under that massive fat suit? Like,
heavier on the Skarsgård than the Stellan in that.
I love that guy. So like, it's like hearing his voice, I got so excited, and he just like kills it as the Baron. Like,
yeah, he really does. But what did they like? What's going on with? Why is he like 20 feet tall? Did they ever explain? Is he floating?
Yeah, he's not actually that tall. He's just too fat, so he has like this like technology like spine thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because the first time as they're walking through like the fortress or whatever.
Yeah, you see him.
Yeah, he's like way taller than everyone else, and I thought the exact same thing. I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah. I was like, "What the hell's going on here?"
30 feet tall. What the heck?
Yeah, I guess that's how. And again, like even with the whole Harnican, like they are kind of like a horror type faction anyways. Like they would be the horde in like a game, right? Like they are just so a little bit monstrous.
Yeah, they need to like go outside and touch grass a little bit. Maybe being on Arrakis will be good for them. They get some vitamin D. Maybe like,
that's what they need. Yeah,
get a little sunlight, a little.
Yeah, they're clearly in a very dark part of the universe.
They won't be so angry.
Yeah, like guys, lighten up. Everything's just doom gloom and like war for them.
Right.
But well, that's the thing. They were on Arrakis, and then they got like kicked off just to come back and like wreck shop. It was all set up. So dumb. Stupid Emperor. Hope we get to see him, and I hope Timothy just like stabs him in the face. We'll see.
This giant sandworm tooth dagger.
Yes. But also like I guess like that whole scene too, like when Leto like bites his tooth, poisons like that whole room. He just like floats up to like the corner. So like when dude walks in, he's just like there's like, this thing up in the corner of the room. Like that's just so creepy. Like
it's like the fat version of Batfleck in Batman vs Superman. Do you remember that scene when he's like hiding in the corner of the wall?
Yeah.
Not inconspicuously, just like don't mind me, I'm Batman.
Just like two extremely massive like beings hiding in the corner. Pick a better spot, guys. Come on. Not fooling anyone.
But it was absolutely devastating when it all kind of did come crashing down. I felt so bad for just like everyone involved in that situation because it was just brutal and unfair. But they knew it was happening. They knew it was going to come. But old Paul makes it out. Leto does not. But he goes down like a champ. And the poor doctor, dude, like he was in a bad spot anyways. But he kind of makes up for it. But I guess he knew there's no good way out of that situation.
Yeah,
right.
He sets up Paul for the escape. Gives Paul, what's Paul's dad, Leto the poison tooth. So he kind of made up for his scumbaggery, but you can never trust a bad guy. Like, you really think he's gonna help you? No, he's just gonna kill you too. Come on.
Right.
Yeah, everyone needs to learn. Like, you can't you can't go by the whole let my family go. Like, you got to be more specific than that, man. Like,
we need to both walk out of this room alive, and no one is allowed to follow us.
We needed to be safely transported together to a place you will never bother us ever again, and we will live in that place, and nothing will ever threaten us. Malicious, like there's so many clauses.
There's so many,
I like how though, like you mentioned at the beginning when they were like given the proposal or whatever to go to Arrakis, like you could kind of tell the hesitation and like not wanting to necessarily do that. And I wonder if, like, do you think he was fully aware of like the Harkonnen and like this essentially is like, okay, we're signing up to go to war?
Yeah, I think he was totally, he knew it was a trap, but he's like, we're gonna make the best of this trap and maybe we can win.
Yeah, I don't know, because it did seem in some instances that he was discovering that they were set up to fail. Like specifically that sandworm scene where the transporter comes in, and he's like, they set us up to fail. So I don't know that he knew it going in. I would imagine the planet itself has a reputation within the galaxy, the universe. So I'm sure he knew what he was getting into, but I don't know if he thought it was like a setup for them to for everything that panned out in the movie.
Right. I think he thought they would have more of a fighting chance. Like I knew he knew it was a bad situation, but he was hoping for a little bit, like, as all the things on paper, like, like when you start a new job, it's like, oh, where's all my equipment? Oh, you got to kind of get your own.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, because what we're led to believe, they're like Atreides is kind of a powerhouse, like naval and aerial, military powerhouse. So yeah, I guess I would imagine he was probably confident in the house's ability until they get there and they realize like all the equipment's like been tampered with and
well,
um
and it's just awkward because it's like there's a mandate to the emperor to fill up so many whatevers of spice. Well, when the things to fill up aren't even there to fill up, you're really starting from like scratch, and it's like,
Right.
yeah,
I get any bones here? I get anything? Nah.
come on guys.
Parakins, they're just like, screw you guys, we'll be back.
Yeah, I like too the like scroll or whatever the forms essentially they filled out or whatever. They still like seal it with like
Oh yes,
with their houses,
so
seal
cool.
with wax. Like
Yeah.
I sometimes the like massive wide range of technology variety in sci-fi stuff can be a pain point for me, but also sometimes when it's done well, it's like kind of cool. So like
It is, yeah.
the fact that they signed an actual paper and sealed it with wax with their ring, like sing it, and then they also fought hand to hand with swords, even though they like space travel and have crazy
Carpet bombs.
lasers and
yeah.
the
it's
stuff.
very medieval like.
Yeah, it just
It
like,
is, yeah.
the way that they were able to. I mean, there's no real explanation for like the wax, whatever. That's just a cool thing. Like, but the swords, like the shield, like they can only penetrate the shield with like a slow, like moving in that projectile or whatever.
Right.
So like the way they're able to explain the gaps and like why certain things are used and certain things aren't is super cool.
Yeah, but you would think like even with that shield, firearms would still be there just as a fucking distraction. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they'd still be using them in some capacity, and there might be like one gun in the movie at some point.
Yeah. When
There
when he
is.
meets when like right before the duel with the Fremen guy,
Yeah.
because Paul and his mom like take the leader hostage there, and Paul like runs up and he has like a weird looking pistol thing.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
It's like it's a kinetic thing, so it's like kinetic energy. So like the more kinetic force something has, the more likely it's just going to resist it. Where it's got to be it's got to be more like not blunt, but like it's got to be like a physical like, attack. Well, so I think like the pistol thing was more of like if you get close to something, you could potentially shoot them, or if they don't have their shields on, obviously.
Yeah.
So the like little bug thing that tries to assassinate Paul.
That thing's crazy.
Yeah. Later on in the movie, I think, is that fired out of a gun at Leto and it hits him in the back and he's trying to figure out how to get it before it penetrates. I think that's fired out of a gun. And I think it latches on and then slowly creeps its way in. That's why he was freaking out trying to get it off.
Could have been the same thing. Because
I remember the dude behind him. I think the dude behind him shot that thing at him. So
yeah, that makes sense. Because this other thing was like they're like seekers. So like I get why he's shooting out the gun to get it somewhere really quick. The other guy was like buried in like the wall.
Yeah,
and, like
right.
just like let this thing
Burnt
out
through it. Yeah.
That was rough.
Those dudes are horrific. Like that's like
they really are
too. Like here, we're gonna bury you alive for the cause, my man. So just like when they get settled, just yeah, like brutal. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
I wonder.
That was cool. I forgot about that. Yeah, he shoots it and it like works its way through the shield. I like though, like Paul, his shield bracelet was not on him. It was sitting over on the table. So it's like when my Fitbit isn't on, I'm like, I need to get to my Fitbit.
Yeah. I need to get to my Fitbit. I can't take too many steps or it won't be recorded.
Yeah. I wonder what the shields are going to look like in like 10 years, like that visual effect.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to age well or not.
You don't like
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. That might be. That's the one thing probably in the movie that's not going to age too well in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I don't know what it was about them. I think they're cool. I like that it shows like blue and red, but there was yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it just wasn't animated well or what, but
it totally made me think of like old school arcade beat 'em up games.
yeah,
When as soon as you're about to kill an enemy, they start flashing red.
yeah.
That's all I could think about.
Yeah,
that's in Ready Player One. Don't they have something to that effect in that game? In that movie? Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I do like the parallels with all the technology. Like I said, it was sticking out with a sore thumb. Before it was kind of explained here a little bit more, and they explained it in the movie. Obviously, I just missed it. But I'm like that the one point when they're carpet bombing I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, why did they have guns and they have these carpet bombs?
Shield's probably not gonna help you too much with the carpet bomb,
right? And then I also like because they talk about the shields around the mining ship as well, and I think Paul is like, why don't we just shield the ship? And she says something about the rhythmic nature of the shield. It would attract the worm.
Also, I don't think a shield's gonna do super well when it just swallows you whole.
Right, not gonna help.
Drags you under the sand.
Yeah, but I think that might have been used like Paul doesn't know how big this thing is yet, right? We don't know how big this thing is yet. We're like, oh yeah, why don't they just shield it? And then it's like literally 6 times the size. The mouth of it is like 6 times the size of the big mining ship.
Yeah, this isn't something that rolls up and like chews on a tread.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think that's what they were thinking. Like, oh, they're sandworms. Like they can't be that. Like, no, this thing is like.
I loved how like as it got closer, it kind of like made a quicksand effect.
Yeah,
it was like vibrating people like under. Yeah, man, the worm, super cool.
So cool, dude. Yeah, it's one of the coolest sci-fi things I've seen in a long time, to be honest with you.
I kind of had that whole scene like kind of spoiled for me because I played the RTS, and there's a very specific mechanic in the RTS where you do have to get control spice fields, and you send the crawlers or whatever out there, and then you assign ornithopters to like protect them. But then there's the get all like lift things. Well, the sandworms come, but like that whole thing was explained in the game because it's a very specific mechanic game. Like, oh yeah, I know it's gonna happen. So the movie was kind of ruined for me in that respect. So that was a little less exciting.
I didn't even know there was a game.
Yeah, it's an RTS.
Is it relatively? Did we see it at like? I think we saw it at like
it released September of 2023. So
yeah. So we probably saw it summer Games Fest or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're making like an MMO too. It's called
maybe
Awakening.
That's it. Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
That looks sweet. But yeah, the RTS
I don't know why I
fun.
did like air quotes, but yeah.
RTS is hard though too, because Arrakis is rough. It's a hard game.
Oh,
are there other planets?
No,
I don't know anything about like the Dune universe, so
it's just all about Arrakis. I think everything's just about Arrakis because it's the most important place in the galaxy.
Okay.
Also, I like also with like the practicality of it, they don't have like hyperdrives and like stuff like that.
Right.
The Spacing Guild has those like teleporters because basically they just fly through them and you just come out the other side. So when the Hurricane are showing up at Atreides at night, like they're just kind of like flying out of this giant like tunnel.
Yeah, it's like a portable wormhole essentially. I think is what the vibe I got out of it.
So having only played the first Mass Effect game, isn't that what they do in Mass Effect?
They use relay. It's a relay something in Mass Effect where it like shoots you. Yeah, same concept though. But I think it's not explained in Dune what that thing is. The tube that's flying in space, but I got the feeling that it was like a wormhole connecting one point and the other, and they were coming through it.
You just casually just fly through it at normal speed.
Yeah, and then Mass Effect, you fly into the relay, and then it like shoots you at a astronomical speed.
Kinda,
yeah,
like a warp jump. Yeah. Where this is a little bit more casual. It's just like I was gonna fly through it conveniently and then just show up.
Right.
Because it's an inside job. Because apparently the Space Guild weren't like, sorry, this is a bad idea. Like,
Yeah.
this seems bad. But yeah, I think that's like, I don't know. That's just so interesting. I do want to know more about like the Emperor and this douchebag that he is.
I think it's kind of cool that we don't see him at all.
At all.
Oh,
Just
yeah, I
talks
love
of him.
that.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that.
And I like the whole like the house thing, like House Atreides, House Harkonnen. Like it's very medieval again there too,
Yeah,
because it's just
they're called dukes and everything. Yeah,
yeah, it's just cool how much like it's just a medieval sci-fi.
It
like,
really
setup.
is. Yeah, with a lot of like the dudes in the spacesuits look like samurais, like they have their swords like samurais and everything.
Oh, the white ones, the like
Yeah.
Imperial like
Yeah,
guard or whatever, they were really cool.
yeah, they're super cool. But there's a lot of undertone, and I was looking it up because I was like, there is like a lot of Middle Eastern undertones in this movie, and it's in the Wikipedia. It's a direct influence on the prequel series of books is called the Baltarian Jihad. So there's a lot of Islamic undertones, I think, in the movie. So, yeah, I dig it, man. I don't know. It's just a weird hodgepodge of things thrown together in a really elegant, awesome way.
Definitely a better weird hodgepodge of things in a sci-fi epic than like Rebel Moon. In that respect, I might have been harsher on Rebel Moon if I had seen this first.
Yeah, and like because I have to as a Snyder fan, not to totally just defend Rebel Moon.
Okay,
but
we get it.
I mean, Dune had pretty like legit old, plentiful source material to pull from.
Yes.
So that's always good. But yeah, are you guys were talking about the Sardaukar? Those were the people in the white suits.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, dude, those dudes were gnarly.
Yeah, and the way they came down behind,
just like
that
floated
so
down
cool. And I was like,
so
dude, that's
slowly.
badass. Yeah.
I wonder if that's gonna age well too.
Also, like some 300 Roman style stuff going on there too with that whole sequence there, as they were like chanting exactly the same way too.
Holding the steps and then they just got surrounded and stabbed to death. Yeah, basically the 300.
Yeah.
I loved also just another weird small detail, but like the little like almost salute thing that Duncan and Paul do to each other with like the sword. I forget the positions.
Yeah.
But like the like on the chest and then like across the forehead thing. I thought that was pretty sweet. But like, what do you guys think about? Man, I literally just watched this movie last night, but I cannot remember any of the words. But basically, like the Paul Space Messiah story thread we have going here.
I mean, at first, that definitely stands out as like, that's gonna be a weak point, right? Because we're talking about space messiahs and just messiahs in general are hard to like nail down, especially when they're already set up as like I said this earlier, like the soft prince. But somehow it works. I don't really quite understand how it works, but it works pretty well.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just like through the little trials like he kept going through, like the whole like put your hand in the box because you're also part like telekinetic or something. And like she had to test him.
Telepathic. Good job, Chad. Thank you for fixing Nick.
What did you say?
Telekinetic.
Telekinetic, yeah.
I mean, kind of. But no, yeah, I mean, I think it did somehow end up working out. I'm not quite convinced how it worked out, but it definitely wasn't as weak as I thought it was going to be.
I think it's cool because there's just so much mystery behind it. Like they leave it pretty mysterious on what's going on there.
But they don't. It's weird.
Yeah, but they. I mean, I kind of feel like they do, and I also like the doctor. Like we said it already, but how she talks about his cuffed whatever, and then says something from the prophecy. So there, I felt like that's probably one of the most intrigued parts of the movie. Like I want to know what the hell's going on with this dude.
Somehow they kept the intrigue there alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't find quickly the name that they kept referring to Paul, like when he got to Arrakis, like the Arrakis natives were calling him.
Mm.
It's like Laius something or other. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, especially since it seems like Paul doesn't want that. Uh, Thinking specifically of the scene in the tent with him and his mom when he's like having that vision or dream or whatever, and he realizes that like this like holy war is about to break out, and it's either his doing or because of him or for him or in his name or whatever. And he's like not vibing with that. But like, I wonder how much of it is like legit and how much of it is just Paul being like studious and knowledgeable about things. You think about
Right.
what the Fremen lady said about the suit, right? And you brought this up earlier, Nick, of him like how he knew like the way to put it on, having never worn one. And she, mumbles what Chad said, like, he basically, to paraphrase, like he's going to know our ways having never been, here or not being from here or whatever. Like, is that messianic in nature, or was he just like remembering things that he's read about Arrakis, because we see him in the first part of the movie like studying a lot. So it's like,
yeah,
but he does also have like these weird like visions. What's the word I'm looking for?
Clairvoyance.
Yeah, kind of, where he's seeing these things. Some of it is kind of reliable in terms of like, seeing Duncan die, and Duncan actually dies. But some of it's kind of not reliable, where like what I mentioned earlier with the guy that he duels and ends up killing, like the dream he had of that guy was like seemed like a friendly conversation, and that dude, I think his name was Jamis or something. It's like, yeah, I'll teach you the ways of the desert. But then Paul just like literally kills him. So
yeah,
I think that's kind of cool. It's where it's like almost the unreliable narrator in terms of like these almost prophetic visions that Paul's having. So it keeps like the intrigue and like what they're showing us, and like we don't know what's going to come to pass.
And maybe that's some really good writing then, because he does have like a clairvoyance about him, but it's also almost explainable because it's like he is very knowledgeable, but he so it's like maybe no one ever like explicitly told him like that's how he should like wear his suit, but understanding how the suit works and understanding like everything else about it, it makes sense to him. Like it comes naturally to him. Another thing that helps him is that he is also not naive or not innocent, but like he is not really affected by the complexity of like what his father has to deal with or his mother has to deal with, being part of these other political systems, these gaffes of like underplots, because his mom like technically wasn't supposed to like marry who she married and have a kid with who she had a kid with, and there's like issues there. His dad has to run this entire house. So like, but he's kind of like not oblivious to it, but he really like listens to his father in terms of like, I mean, I'm kind of like a prince and like I kind of have my duty. I'm not like thrilled about it, but I like my dad. My dad's a good dad, kind of thing. He kind of has that going for him. Like I have two good parents. I have no reason to be a dirtbag. He kind of has that whole thing going on. So I don't know, and that kind of, but that like backs up and like puts some foundation around just the idea of like he's just like a prophetic savant, the one chosen, right? Like he has some backing to like why he might have a little bit of a leg up on things. I don't know.
Yeah.
It helps.
The joys of being young and not having the responsibility, the weight of all the, knowledge of the exact like societal impacts of his
What a
title and family and stuff. Yeah.
still suits. That's what they're called.
There you go.
How did he navigate? What did he do in the storm when his mom was freaking out and they're in the ornithopter and he just lets it go? Like he says something there, like he was remembering something he learned, and like he just let the storm like whip him. He didn't like resist the storm. He just let the storm like take them somewhere, kind of. And by doing that, the storm didn't shred the helicopter. But like that was another moment where like he wasn't just like knowing how to do that. He was reflecting on something that had happened earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
And it got him.
Well, I think his dad mentioned, or somebody mentions it to him, like the sand can rip through metal at the beginning of the movie. So he might have just been thinking, I don't know that they explain it, to be honest with you, but he could have just been thinking the best option is to just take it where it takes us instead of trying to go against it and get ripped in half. I looked up that ship, and it's called a Highliner in the books and in the movie, the transport ship. And it appears that it's just a transport vessel that was transporting them there, but it does say that it can fold space-time to the tube.
Okay,
tube ship. It does say that it can fold space to travel vast distances, which is essentially what a wormhole is. So
okay.
I think I was right. I think it was somewhat right.
That's why it's a tube.
Yep.
Just folding space, man.
But now that I know what it is pretty cool.
It's literally brown too. Like it was the most boring looking thing. It was just like
so boring,
like a smooth hollow hot dog.
Yeah. One of them Costco space dogs, bro.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see where that ends up. How that plays out. How these dreams and visions have my intrigue.
Yeah, I want to see more desert power.
Yeah.
Desert power.
To go to the dream thing, I'll go back to the cuffing of his pants. Like if it was something that he read somewhere, he just would have said, I read it, or I heard it somewhere. He doesn't say that. He just says, felt like the right thing to do. So I think there is like a Messiah thing going on there. I don't think he's just a smart dude. I think that's exactly where we're heading. And he's seeing Zendaya throughout the movie, and we finally meet up with her at the end. Finally, still didn't get an explanation of what. I've always wondered what the fucking point of the tube in the nose was. Did we get an explanation on the tube?
I think at one point he just like Nick left. Okay, bye, Nick.
Oh,
I think when Paul and his mom are traversing the desert, I think he quickly is just like, oh yeah, this will help you breathe. And I think that's pretty much all we got. If we got it. I could also just be making that up because in my mind, maybe that's what it is, but I'm not sure. Do you know what
in my mind, I'm
nose tube thing is, Nick?
I always took it as kind of like not necessarily oxygen, but maybe like oxygen, moisture, general like atmosphere.
Like a CPAP, like this is just a little CPAP up in there.
Just giving you a little bit of like mist,
a little bit of moisture.
A little bit of moisture.
Oh, Chad, that would be amazing for you. Just like a,
it really would.
Nose spray thing you could wear 24/7, dude.
I think that's how it took.
I'm
it's
sure
just
we'll
part
get
of the life support system, kind of going there.
Yeah, but like nobody else was using them except for these guys. That's why I was curious about it. And it doesn't seem like a planet where there's difficulty breathing and they would even need oxygen.
I mean,
so I was thinking more on the liquid side of it, like it was giving them some sort of liquid.
Like
can't have your nose dry out, man. You get bloody nose, and like that's just a whole mess.
Well, plus when they're out there in the sands, in the spice fields and stuff, like the spice has an effect on the people, like all the Fremen, their eyes turn blue from it. So I wonder if it's maybe like a filtration thing of sorts, so you're not just like constantly inhaling spice while you're out there.
I think Yeah, that might be it. I like the nosebleed thing. Actually, you know what? I really like the nosebleed. We're going to go with the nosebleed thing because listen, just hear my theory for a second. You can't get nosebleeds in the desert because the rhythmic dripping of the blood out of your nose, we know what comes.
Get eaten by
That's
a
what it
sandworm.
is. You nailed it, Nick. You nailed it.
No, I was
We don't even need an explanation. You don't even need an explanation.
We got it. We got it. Don't read it, Nick.
This is it. In the open desert, you wear this filter across your face. This tube in the nostrils with the plugs is to ensure a tight fit. Breathe in through the mouth filter, out through the nose tube. So it's another way of just making sure the moisture that naturally leaves the holes in your face stays in your suit. Because otherwise, like, think of how much spit and just shit just comes out of my face. So it's like it completes the seal.
Gotcha.
Okay. Interesting.
Then they just need something to catch the tears.
Yeah. So I have like this page up on the side here, and it has a picture of the Baron just like chilling in his like goop tub.
Yeah.
How nasty are the Harkonnen gnarly. And just like the Baron's aesthetics and like the way their civilization operates?
Haunting, dude. It's haunting.
Was it tar? It wasn't it black? Was it a black
It's what it
liquid?
looked like.
Yeah, it was like black, and then they dumped something in, and it kind of like turned gold in some places.
Like goldish.
One nasty, thick Bacta tank.
Yeah. And and even in like Bacta tanks, like people are usually relieved to get out of them, right? Whereas like he was like, "Stop talking to me. I want to go back into my goop tube."
Yeah.
Like he was annoyed that like he was being disturbed from having to leave his goop chamber. They are a weird group, and like Dave, like Batista's just like he's just like goon, man. Like he does nothing of importance. He really just kind of runs around and yells about Atreides, and Baron's just like, bro, chill.
Yeah,
it's all part of the plan. He's like, what? Okay, we get to go fight.
He's like a less dumb Drax in this movie.
He's kind of more dumb in this movie.
You think he's more dumb than Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Pretty equal, dumb. Then I don't know. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I
kind of hated around. Yeah, I kind of hated him in this movie, to be honest with you. Especially his first scene where he like screams like an idiot. Like, dude, I get that you're upset, but is that really necessary? Why did you let them do this? It's like, relax. We get it. You got big muscles and you can be loud. We get it. Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, he like is not in on anything. Like, he's not. Like, they know he's not smart enough to like be in on like the main plan.
Yeah,
he's just like, even the viewers know. Like, dude, like, can't you tell there's some shit going down? And you're just
right.
Get him a coloring book, guys.
Yeah, that's what he needs. Put your muscles in the corner and color this picture.
So were you guys excited for Dune 2? I mean, it's kind of a dumb question, but like, were you excited for Dune 2 prior to watching this for this episode? Or watching this, does it make you like excited to watch Dune 2? That's probably just a terrible question, but like, you guys understand what I'm saying. Is there any interest in Dune prior to this, and why? And how has it made you excited for 2?
I mean, for me, ironically, I for whatever reason was excited. I mean, I watched the trailer, minutes after it was released, never even seen the first movie. So I was oddly excited for it because I always knew that I would really get into this movie if I ever watched it. Like, I could just tell. So I was super intrigued by the sequel, and I actually watched the second trailer directly after watching this movie for the podcast. So yeah, I was, oddly, even though that is a weird question that you would think would be answered with no, because I didn't watch the first movie. I was.
Right.
So
right. Well, that makes me feel way better about asking that question. Because like when part 1 came out, I was excited and wanted to watch it. I can't remember exactly why, but I didn't end up. And I don't remember the last movie I saw in theaters, but I saw ISS with my father-in-law. Whatever, it's pretty basic, but the trailer for Dune 2 was during that movie, and I was like, holy crap, this is so epic looking. Like, I really need to watch 1 so bad.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
I think knowing Dune 2, because when Dune 1 came out, I knew like everyone made a big hoopla about it, so I was probably like partly being a hipster about it, and like, I was not going to watch it right away. So I knew there was at least a second one coming out. So obviously, when they officially were like, "Hey, second one's coming out 2024," early on, and gave it a date, and then quickly they're like, "There's going to be a third." I was like, "Okay, like this is a serious thing." It's kind of like early access. Dune 1 was like early access in my mind, and I wasn't about to like commit like energy towards something that I wasn't confident was going to be like a full-fledged thing. But now that I know it's like a trilogy and it's like knock your socks off good, I'm all in. So I think the fact that it for sure is going to be a thing made it worth my time finally.
So
yeah,
Dune 2
I agree
was
with that.
like version 1.0 for you.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, kinda. I mean, Dune 1, obviously it's great, but I feel like the story's about to start finally, because
Right.
like they've done all this build up. We got kind of like the background out of the way, because the whole like first half is just a bunch of build up toward an inevitable point. Like at no point you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna work out great for them. Like, no, these guys are screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the other half is just like the interlude to like what's really about to happen. I feel like that's where Dune 2 is going to pick up. So it very much, is like the prelude to 1.0. 2.0.
That's a good way to put it, though, because there's a lot of movies that come out with plans to be this grand trilogy of movies that don't ever end up getting past the first movie.
Yeah.
So it's a good play. It's a good strategy you had.
Yeah.
I wish I had something as elegant as that. I just didn't watch it. Wanted to, and I just didn't.
Yeah. It's funny though, because now that you say it, I remember talking. I don't know, Nick, if you remember James, like the music guy.
Yeah.
He and his wife saw it like when it came out, and we were talking about it, and he's like, man, I really hope there's another one because the way this ended.
There's so much uncertainty.
There's got to be another one.
There really is. Yeah, there really is. And it wouldn't be, it's not if it had ended here, it would suck, because it's not a complete story. It's really a first episode of a grander story. You know what I mean? That doesn't really have a very good ending. It's kind of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. I don't even think there is like, you could consider any of the end of this an ending to anything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean they could have gone about this and just started it with like Paul and his mom like running, right? And then it would just been flashbacks on like 2 weeks ago.
Everything that led up to it. Yeah.
Record scratch. You're probably wondering how we got into this situation.
Running from the sandworm, like running toward the hard ground.
Yes.
Sandworm.
Record
like
scratch.
This record scratch stop. It's like, you might be wondering how we got here.
Yes.
2 months earlier.
Well, we got our clip for this episode.
And it's Leto just like standing at the envoy from the Emperor, and it just starts there. They could have done it that way, but they just treat it like, hey, we're going to tell you the story.
But it's cool that they went, because I mean, they had to have known that this is going to take off, because most of the movies that do this, that are going to try and start a new franchise, the story in the first movie is usually can be contained to the first movie. You know what I mean? If something, finances, whatever falls through, we still have the full movie. It's a complete story. This is not that at all. This is like it's like the first hour of a movie. You know what I mean? where it's like really no end. We build an awesome story here, but it can't be self-contained by itself.
It's a lot of context, a lot of good exposition. But yeah, if there is no follow-up movie to like this one, it would be really dumb. I would be like, it's so cool, but like I don't know if it's gonna do anything for you, because they just kind of like leave it at this weird spot where it's like, we're about to tell this story, but not.
But like John Wick's the prime example. John Wick comes out, the first movie is a self-contained story. It could have ended right there, and it would have been a badass movie, but it didn't. And they did a lot of world building in that first movie. So, you know, it's just weird to see it the other way around, because I don't see it very often where the first movie in a potential franchise isn't a self-contained story. Even if you look at Star Wars, that could have been a self-contained story. Really, anything. Lord of the Rings really could have been a self-contained story as well. So it's interesting to see them be so brave to be like, here, we're not going to tell a complete story. This movie's not going to make any fucking sense at all unless we get the rest of them. So
they really twisted the studio and publisher's arm with that one.
Yeah.
We're gonna make another one, and probably gonna make 3 if you really pay attention.
Yeah.
So Nick, I know your general disdain for like leaving your house and going to the theater and watching a movie. Will you be watching Dune 2 in the theaters?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make that happen for a number of reasons. It's my birthday too. I kind of want to see it on my birthday.
Nice.
So we'll see.
How are you, Chad, with going to the theater? Do you enjoy it, or
he's coming with me? I'm picking him up.
Make sure you get that PC before he comes.
It definitely depends. It depends. I do enjoy going to the movie. I don't enjoy it to the point where I would like to go like even once a month, to be honest with you, like once or twice a year, maybe. You know, I like seeing the Marvel Spider-Man movies in theaters. We'd go see the Demon Slayer movies.
Corrected yourself there.
Stop. Yeah, because I haven't seen a single Marvel movie outside of Spider-Man in the theater, but yeah, there's movies that'll get me to the theater, and this might be one of them, because I'll be honest, I have not heard a Hans Zimmer score in the theater ever in my life. And that's like the one. So I know I've said this on the podcast before, but when COVID hit, the theaters were like shut down, but you could like rent them out, and they had like a list of movies that you could pick to watch. And I was like hoping that Interstellar would be on there, because that's like the one movie that I want to see in the theater.
Yeah, you didn't see that in theaters?
Happened. I didn't. No.
Ouch.
Total bummer. I know.
Yeah, I saw that in IMAX. It hurt.
Oh,
if you thought like the mixing was terrible, not like watching it in a theater, just imagine it like times 300.
Right. Oh, you know what? I take that back. I did see Tenet in the theater, so I have seen Hans. I assume he did Tenet. I could be wrong though. Let's
Chad, March 1st to Friday, and you don't work that Friday.
I was just gonna look it up. I
like how Nick knows your works.
Yeah, he knows my work schedule more than I do.
It's because I know how to set up a recurring calendar event in Google that just does exactly your schedule, because it's so predictable.
Nice.
Every 2 days.
Okay.
Tell me Chad works.
I have never seen a Hans Zimmer. He did not do Tenet.
There you go.
Somebody different. So it's going to have to happen.
Looks like you and Nick are going.
Yep.
Let's go. 2 weeks from, a week from this.
I'm actually going to be at the theater twice then, because that Demon Slayer movie's coming out in like a week or two. So.
Shoot. Email Hans Zimmer. Tell him to get on the Demon Slayer train.
Right.
Nice. Well, where do we go from here?
Well,
I want to watch the original one, because I'm curious if it's a complete telling of the story. But at the same time, I'm like, I'd rather just watch it this version. So maybe wait till all 3 movies are out and then go back and watch that one.
That's a good point. It would kind of suck if that movie like just skipped through the plot of the 3 movies we're about to get.
Right.
Then, like 30 minutes in, they spoil the whole like mystery that this one leaves us on. You're like,
yeah.
Yeah, that might be after the trilogy's release.
Right.
Go visit that one.
Well, when's the third one gonna come out? Sheesh, it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's a Star Wars cadence every 3 years. Well, traditional Star Wars, not Disney Star Wars. Traditional Star Wars released every 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, that's pretty quick, I think, isn't it? It's pretty quick.
What for this movie? These kind of movies? Depends. 10 years ago, about on pace to today's standards. No, look at Marvel.
Yeah.
They got one like every other month.
Yeah. But they've got multiple different people working on
they got the Disney sweatshops.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah. But yeah, probably from here we need to give it a score. We'll go with out of 10 score again. Only Rebel Moon gets my grade scale score.
Good.
Only Zack Snyder films I rate on a grade scale. Because he's not that precise. No. So, Chad, how do you rate this? And would you recommend it to anyone at all?
So I have to take everything into account here, because part of me wants to give it a really, really, really maybe almost perfect score, but I have to look at it and see that it's not the self-contained thing is working against it for me. Even though I know more coming, I have to look at it as it's not a self-contained movie. So I'm going to give it a solid. What are we doing? Like 20 point? Can
10.
I do halves? Can I do halves?
20 point.
Oh my god, 10.
We're gonna rate this out of 32.
Well, you did a 20-point scale is with halves, is what I'm saying, not out of 20.
Oh,
so
okay.
Can I do like you did like
8.
8.13 or whatever you did, or 7.13 for whatever the hell the movie was we watched before this that I forget already because this movie was so much better.
I gave it a whole score. I gave it a whole number.
No,
Mike.
I give
it a half.
Oh, Mike. Yeah,
Mike
gave it a half.
I gave it a half.
So I can do halves. So we can do halves.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to give it a solid 8.5. Can't quite get to the 9. Or can I? I'm going to go 8. I'm going to go 8.5. And I would certainly recommend it to any sci-fi fans at all. Like Nick said, it's not for everybody. If you're not a sci-fi person, you're not going to find anything different here from any other sci-fi movie. But yeah, solid 8.5. You like sci-fi. You like sand. If you're into sand, if you like giant worms, this is all for you, man.
Yeah.
If you if you like Tremors, go check out the Tremors scene.
Yeah, dude.
They're way more creepy in this one.
If you really like those things, you can get it up to a 9.5. But if it's just sci-fi, just park it at a 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5.
Okay. Michael, what's Bulbasaur got to say?
Well, I too, like Chad was saying, have to take all things into consideration. And the one thing that would keep it from a higher rating would be the lack of the self-contained story. Now, we are very aware of like what this movie, what its purpose is, and like what they're doing with the trilogy and all that stuff. But as a singular movie here, we get a little bit of points taken away from that just because there's no end. And I want to quote part of a review on Metacritic here. This person gave it a 3. I'm not an animal. I'm not going to be doing that.
A 3?
But this sentence is probably the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. I think it's the longest trailer I've ever seen.
Oh, that's what we said.
Yeah.
It's
a good way to put it.
It sums it up. 2.5 hour trailer.
Yeah.
With that said, though,
that's so right.
It is the most immaculate, like epic trailer known to man.
Right.
So with that, I'll still give it an 8, but the lack of like self-contained story and like actual ending of this movie prevents it from probably getting like a 9 or higher. but realistically, I have to give it an 8. It's solid. I mean, if you're a sci-fi fan and you're in it for the trilogy and the extended story, like you like the extended universes and things like that, like you'll really like this.
For sure. Yeah.
Also,
there seems to be a deep expanded universe on this stuff. As I was looking up the ships there, they have like hundreds of different ships on that thing. It might be as deep as Star Wars. I don't know.
I like how the Atreides park their ships in the water. That was cool.
I feel like we also need to clip these reviews and put them out ahead of time, because I'm just thinking, like, we're giving our reviews and recommendations after we've talked about the movie for like an hour and a half. So if anyone did want to see it, we just like spoiled everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, Nick, what do you give it?
So Mike went with the low side of the critics with an 80, an 8. And Chad went kind of like a high end critic, gave it like an 85, 8.5. I'm gonna go with the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm gonna give it a 9, 9 out of 10. Just because aesthetically it was real crisp and clean. A lot of great moments, good actors, good acting. I like that it is somehow different than a lot of sci-fis that are out there. Even though it's a lot of like similar concepts, but the fact that it's like this medieval sci-fi thing going on with the mechanics of the world, I think that's really cool. And it isn't this expansive like galaxy. It's like all happening on this planet, more or less. So I think it takes a unique swing at those things. But yeah, just the polish on the movie. Like they set out to make an epic movie, and they accomplished that. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Nice.
And I would recommend to probably just about anyone. Like if you like long epic movies that are either sci-fi or just maybe fantasy, right? It's kind of like a sci-fi fantasy ordeal here. Couple different genres in it. So yeah, definitely recommend. But steer away if you're susceptible to very bass undertones that put you to sleep.
Yes.
And movies that are longer than 2 hours. Like it could be a drag. And
bad combination if you don't like those two things.
Yeah, right. and to that person's point, it is a very long trailer. So if you're not impressed and kind of intrigued by what's happening, yeah, it would get probably pretty boring real quick. You're like, what?
Yeah, and I felt a little catfish with Zendaya. I'm not gonna lie, like she's not in this movie at all. Like what the hell? That's all valid. Yeah, everything I've ever seen about this movie is him and her, and she's in it for like the last 15 minutes.
I mean, there's a lot of flash forwards of them together.
Yeah,
she kind of is in it like every 20 minutes.
Yeah, but
for like 10 seconds.
For 10 seconds at a time, but for a total of 1 minute and 30 seconds.
There isn't who's our favorite movie trailer or pitch? There isn't a pitch meeting, but there is an honest trailer out there for it. I think that's what it's called. And it's pretty funny because it's just like it picks on the fact that it's just like a constant shot of Zendaya looking over her shoulder. Like, like that's all she does the whole time. There's some pretty good rips on it.
It's almost like a perfume or cologne commercial. Zendaya's scenes.
Yeah. It's like the smell of Arrakis.
It 100% sounded like you said the smell of Iraqis.
Yeah,
like people from Iraq. Where you going with that, bro?
Smell your own bodily fluids.
Oh, jeez.
Get your still suit today.
Man.
All right. Well, shall we end it then?
We shall.
and
Okay,
give
well,
Dad no material to go on
Yeah.
for the after cut.
Just cut
Love
it. Cut it right here. Don't
Just
even
cut it
give
right
him an
here.
outro.
Don't even thank
Just
these
hit-
people
just hit
for
end.
listening and watching.
There's Chattel.
What's up?
Hey, Chad.
What's this?
A slideshow of Enshrouded.
I thought for a second it was Hogwarts Legacy.
That's how I'm playing it.
Yeah, you are.
There's no point in playing Hogwarts now.